Travel all over the countryside, ask the Leylands, ask the Leylands. Travel all over the countryside, ask the Leyland Brothers. Whatever it is that you want to see, ask the Leylands, ask the Leylands. No matter whatever that happens to be, ask the Leyland Brothers. Come on, be in it and join in the fun. Travel all over Australia.
Well, you've really sent us some interesting letters, and they take us all over Australia. Where do we go to first, Mike?
First we go to the township of Tumut, in fact beneath the Blowering Reservoir, where we have a look at the trout farm there. And for all those frustrated trout fishermen, this is a place you can actually see some trout and catch one if you like to hire a small rod. But they breed the trout there, and they're processed, frozen and sent to our capital cities. Where do we go to then, Mal?
Well, our next story comes from Western Australia. It comes from Perth, actually, or almost Perth. Just in the hills here outside the city, we meet an interesting artist who has applied the earnings from his art into setting up a beautiful wildlife sanctuary for Western Australian wildlife. And then, for our final story, we have a look at some more wild animals on Kangaroo Island. This is in answer to so many letters from people that have written in wanting to see Kangaroo Island. We see the people on the island and the whole environment of the island, and we also have a really good close-up look at the sea lions.
If you've ever been trout fishing, you'll realise just how difficult it is to catch a trout. Well, just upstream here on the Tumut River, it's quite easy to see some trout at the trout farm. Paul Nelson of Colac in Victoria would like to see a trout hatchery, so we're going up beneath the Blowering Reservoir to have a look.
It's much easier to catch a trout at the Snowy Mountains trout farm. Here they have a fish-out tank, where visitors can try their luck with a hired rod. Apparently it is not rare for frustrated trout fishermen to end up here, determined to take home a trout they can truthfully say they caught. Even in the tanks, the trout are elusive, probably because they are fed so well by visiting children. The real object of the trout farm is to breed rainbow trout for the table. Scooping out the brood trout for egg stripping is much easier than fishing for them. Inside the hatchery, foreman Bill Hilly and farmhand Grant Thatcher take milt from the male rainbow trout. The eggs are gently removed from the female fish using air pressure from a bicycle pump. Then the air must be sucked out of the ovaries before the female can be released into the tank. A mature female will produce 2,000 eggs, and the milt from one male is sufficient to fertilise the eggs taken from 4 females. The fertilised eggs incubate in plastic jars, with 35,000 eggs in each jar. After 3 weeks, the eye of the embryo is visible. Then they develop into fry. When their skin pigments have developed, the fish, now called fingerlings, are moved to the outside tanks, which house 10,000 5-gram fish. The farm is ideally situated beneath the Blowering Reservoir. A richly oxygenated supply of fresh cold water at stable temperatures is always available. The farm trout survival rate is 90%, compared with 2% in natural conditions. Managing Director of the company, John Barclay showed me the large rearing tanks.
John, why are all the fish hanging around the catwalk here like this, all that close to us?
Well, this is our feeding flume, and each day the feeder will come by 6 or 7 times and give them their feed. If I can perhaps show you some, show you their reaction. And this is the reason we don't let visitors up here, because they lose a lot of weight in their feeding frenzy, as you can see.
See, they really boil the water up, don't they?
Yes. There's roughly 4,500 trout in there.
In each one of these tanks?
In each tank, yes.
And how big would the trout be that you've got there?
They're just short of market size. At about 300 grams, we take them over to the processing house and process them for market.
The fish are fed on a pelletised high-protein food. It takes about 2 parts weight of food to produce 1 part of trout flesh. This is good compared to cattle, which need a ratio of 8 to 1. Circulating water keeps the food in suspension, as rainbow trout will not feed off the bottom. After 15 months, the trout have reached the saleable size of 300 grams. A newly developed mechanical elevator will speed up the operation of moving fish from tanks and channels into the trucks for transport to the processing plant. About 700 trout at a time are placed in this tank and are killed instantly by electrocution. Because they do not die under stress, this method produces better flesh. The German-made Gillian gutting machine can handle 60 fish per minute. After gutting, the fish are cleaned with revolving nylon brushes before they are sealed into plastic sleeves for weighing and packing. To retain the trout's flavour, the packets of fish are frozen to -5 degrees Celsius in 20 minutes. The cartons of trout are shipped frozen to the capital cities to be sold to the restaurant trade. Snowy Mountains Trout is the largest trout farm in the Southern Hemisphere. It is a perfect example of aquaculture.
Well, we're not actually on the beach at Broome in Western Australia, although we are in Western Australia. We're in fact inside the studio of a well-known Australian artist, Nardino. Now, Nardino's work is famous throughout the world, and he creates paintings like the one behind me. And he's travelled around Australia and seen a lot of the Australian countryside. Now, we've come to Nardino's studio to have a look at Nardino at work, how he creates these paintings, in answer to a request from Mr. Ian Anderson from Perth in Western Australia. And we've come to have a look at the way he works, but that's only part of the story, because he's also created here a sanctuary for Australian wildlife. It's the Kahuna Wildlife Sanctuary. So let's meet Nardino, see how he creates his paintings, and then let's have a look around his sanctuary.
For 18 years, Nardino travelled around the Australian outback with his wife Lucille, and now puts his experiences onto canvas. Nardino's paintings are mostly landscapes, which sell readily, providing most of the money required to set up the wildlife sanctuary. Because Nardino works with wet paint, he must complete each painting in a continuous session, the average one taking a full day. During his travels, he came to appreciate the rugged nature of the Australian bush and the wildlife it supports. These themes dominate his paintings, but he was convinced that the average Australian doesn't know enough about our native wildlife and would probably spend days in the bush without seeing even one kangaroo. Here he has tried to provide an ideal combination of his two great loves, his painting and the bush animals. He can work every day in the studio while surrounded by the bush and wildlife that inspires his work. Here in 40 acres of natural bush, visitors can wander among the animals and see them behaving normally. There are no cages at Kahuna, just a series of walking tracks which meander through the bush, providing the visitor with the opportunity to observe without intrusion. There are several ponds which are always graced by waterfowl. Nardino says that many visitors are accustomed to caged animals and find it difficult to accept the idea of simply wandering through the bush to see them. For the children, there is another way of getting around. A group of steam engine enthusiasts have a popular model railway running through many parts of the park. This novel form of transport is intended mostly as entertainment for the young, but does also provide glimpses of kangaroos, wallabies and emus. At feeding time, most of the animals, like the pelicans, turn on a rowdy, comical display which always attracts a crowd. The Kahuna Wildlife Sanctuary had not been open long at the time of filming, and the animals were still becoming accustomed to the presence of people. Nardino's hopes for the park are that in time, people will appreciate that the real benefit of the place is that here is a piece of virgin native bushland chock full of all the native creatures of the Australian bush, and that without cages, they can be seen behaving naturally. It's an unusual concept for a wildlife park, but Nardino thinks that it's only through places like this that many city children have an opportunity to enjoy the Australian bush and its animals. A short flight out of Adelaide reaches Kangaroo Island, the third largest off the Australian coast. Here, city folks relax whilst retaining civilised amenities at Kingscote, the largest town. All you have to do is...
Let's all hop till we have to stop. Let's hop, 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 me and you, on the lovely island of the kangaroo.
And we've come to Kangaroo Island to answer this request from Cheryl Winnan of Lyndoch in South Australia, who says, "Dear Mike and Mal, I would like you to show a film on the seals at Kangaroo Island, and I'd like you to go to Seal Bay to find them." Well, we will go to Seal Bay, but we've had many letters asking to look at Kangaroo Island in general, so we're going to look at Kangaroo Island and the seals in this segment of our program. Now, the spot where I'm standing is quite significant. This is Nepean Bay on the northern part of the island. It stretches for quite some distance behind me there. Now, the significant thing is that in 1802, when Captain Matthew Flinders was circumnavigating Australia on his voyage of discovery, he sheltered here during a storm and sent ashore his ship's company to look for some fresh food. They hadn't had any fresh meat on their expedition since they'd left South Africa. Well, the men came ashore and they found a bountiful supply of kangaroos. In fact, the kangaroos were so unafraid of man that were able to catch 31 of them to supplement the ship's supply of food by simply clubbing them on the head. Well, so grateful was Matthew Flinders for this that he named the island Kangaroo Island.
There are about 1,600 kilometres of roads on the island, so it obviously requires at least a week to see everything. But even in a few days, it's possible to take in the highlights by simply hiring a car and driving a circuit around the coast. Kingscote, supporting a permanent population of about 1,500, is an ideal place to begin. Here, the holiday resort atmosphere is present all year round, with plenty of reminders that the coast is never far away. And if fishing is what you're after, there's no shortage of boats for hire or charter at Kingscote, as well as dozens of excellent sandy beaches all along the northern coast. One such beach at Stokes Bay is concealed from view. A track winding through a tunnel of fallen limestone rocks leads to a sheltered cove of glistening white sand that comes as a complete surprise. At high tide, the tunnel mouth is sometimes underwater, preventing access to the beach. The natural rock pool affords excellent, safe bathing for children.
Oh, you dropped it. Oh, no, you dropped it. Where'd it go? There it is.
Well, it's easy to see why this beach at Stokes Bay is so popular with visitors to Kangaroo Island. In fact, it's almost a must on every tourist's calendar. But there's another bay and another beach on the other side of Kangaroo Island, on the southern side, which is even more popular, and that's at Seal Bay.
This magnificent bay is known the world over as a tourist attraction, and for good reason. This is the place where hundreds of sea lions bask in the sun and frolic in the surf all year round. It's one of the most unique places anywhere in the world. Here, the sea lions not only use the beach, but don't mind sharing it with human intruders. A place where man can be friends with nature's wild creatures and be privileged enough to walk in perfect harmony among untamed wildlife. The sea lions are also known as white-capped seals. Although sea lion is their proper name, they're more often referred to simply as seals by the thousands of tourists which flock to this small beach at Seal Bay. They breed on a different part of the island and only come to this beach to apparently play and relax. Oddly enough, they seem to welcome man here, but react quite differently at the breeding grounds. It's always the young ones which provide the most fun to watch as they demonstrate their agility in the surf. Perhaps their appeal lies in their almost human behaviour. Tired oldies, interested only in lazing in the sun, and energetic youngsters keen to drag the adults in for a dip. This flourishing seal colony is the highlight of any visit to Kangaroo Island. But it's interesting to note that the earliest white inhabitants, seal hunters, almost wiped them out in their zeal to gain pelts. West of Seal Bay, near the south coast, is the Kelly Hill National Park. This is an ideal place to stop for lunch under the shade of the eucalypts. But the real attraction here lies hidden under the ground. In 1888, a horse named Ned Kelly and his rider fell through the thin crust of a limestone cavern and so discovered the extensive and beautiful Kelly Hill Caves. Today, a resident ranger conducts guided tours through the caves 4 times daily.
Very deep, down the bottom there's about 7 feet below the surface.
The beautiful limestone formations are as fine as those found anywhere, and each trip through the cave takes about 45 minutes. Exploration has shown that the entire cave system is much larger than the part open to the public at present. The western end of Kangaroo Island is still relatively wild and undisturbed. Around 550 square kilometres of it have been set aside as the Flinders Chase Fauna and Flora Reserve. Here, it's possible to observe flocks of Cape Barren geese grazing casually. The Cape Barren goose is one of the world's less bountiful waterfowl, with a total population of only around 6,000. In the past, they suffered badly at the hands of man. They were killed for meat by early seal hunters and later suffered wholesale slaughter by graziers who considered them pests competing with cattle and sheep on their pastures. Today, protected by law, they're on the increase. Koalas introduced from Victoria are also quite common throughout the Flinders Chase Reserve. They've been here long enough now to be referred to by the locals as naturalised Kangaroo Islanders. Also on the south coast is probably the island's most spectacular natural feature, a giant exposed dome of granite capped with a collection of odd and grotesquely shaped rocks. This strange outcrop is known as the Remarkables, an apt name indeed. The bald dome drops almost 80 metres vertically into the ocean at Kilpatrick Point. Here, among the weird shapes of weather-worn granite, we round off our look at Kangaroo Island with the thought that in many parts of the rugged southwest coast, nothing has changed much since Captain Matthew Flinders discovered it. It still has a bountiful wildlife population and that timeless fascination which seems to be common to all islands.
Well, we certainly hope you enjoyed that episode of Ask The Leyland Brothers. We've certainly had plenty of letters asking to see Kangaroo Island. In fact, we'd like to thank all those people that have written in through our episodes in the last few months asking to see things on this program. But we would like to say that don't be disappointed if you haven't seen your episode yet. It'll probably turn up a little later. We'd also like to take this opportunity to ask other people that haven't yet written in to send in their suggestions, because it's your ideas which keep our program going. Now, it doesn't matter what it is, if it's something of historical interest, or if it's a story you'd like to see about wildlife, or if about an individual or somebody that you know might make an interesting story. And don't forget to write to us and we'll try and bring the answers to you on this program. Now, the address is Ask The Leyland Brothers, Post Office Box 900, Newcastle. That's Ask The Leyland Brothers, Post Office Box 900, Newcastle, 2300.
Travel all over the countryside, ask the Leylands, ask the Leylands. Travel all over the countryside, ask the Leyland Brothers. Whatever it is that you want to see, ask the Leylands, ask the Leylands. No matter whatever that happens to be, ask the Leyland Brothers.